Hello, hello, and welcome to my favorite part of the week, Open Line Fridays. We are on episode 36 tonight, folks. I am so glad to have all of you guys tuning in live. All those questions you've got in before the show already in chat. So tonight, what our Open Line Fridays is it's all about you guys. The topics we've discussed throughout the week are, topics that I meticulously researched before these shows, uh, dug into them, took your questions and whatnot. But tonight, the topics are what you guys want to talk about. Uh, in addition to the stuff that I have on deck as well today. And I think I got a good one for you guys tonight. So if you want to be a part of the show, if you either want to call in to the show live while we are recording, or if you want to just drop some chats, some questions for the episode live, Discord is a great place to do that. You'll find the link to my Discord, all my other pages as well, and my link tree and my pages bios wherever you are watching live. So tonight, the subject that I want to kind of dig deep into after last night's episode, I couldn't stop thinking about all of those scientists missing. It just, there's so much complexities to that, folks. And really, it's the deeper you go down that rabbit hole, the more questions that come up from it. So I did what any normal person does after staying up all night editing the videos. I just kept pretty much after very little sleep, and my kid got me up. I just started kicking right out from the get go at this scientist thing, and I'll tell you, I got a lot of depth on it, but I still can't wrap my head around it, folks. So hopefully, this open line episode tonight, you can help me out as well. We can kind of dig into this a little more deeper than what we get in the mainstream narrative about it. Make some connections that I haven't seen made. And of course, always taking your chat questions here. I do have to, before we jump too far into the show, I am going to need just about a 5-minute break here, real quick. I'm still just kind of wrapping up, getting my kids to bed. Uh, Daughter still needed to get a diaper change and whatnot. I tried to get it all done before the show, folks. I swear, I swear. This one man wrecking ball, one man army here. There's only so many minutes, so many hours in the day. So I do have everything wrapped up except for literally the diaper part. So if you guys will just kind of hang out and chat, let's get some questions going now. I'll be back in just about 5 minutes. No worries though. We're gonna just keep this stream going up here as well. And just get loaded up with your questions when we get back. Appreciate you guys' understanding here. Be back in about 5 minutes. Hey there, hi there, ho there. I am back. Quick change. Thankfully, it was just a number onesies. So, able to get her a nice NASCAR pit crew and back to bed, and she's cooperating goldenly for daddy. So, like I said tonight, what I really want to dig into is a little bit of the research that I did earlier today on these missing scientists. Truth be told, folks, I knew very little of it going in, but it was just such a, nag at me. I knew about their connections. I knew, the relative scope of it, the, meats and potatoes of it, if you would. And I really just kinda wanted to do my own deep dive on it. And, yeah, thank you, Kristen. Yeah, I'm pretty, proficient when it comes to diaper changing. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I just couldn't get my head around it, and I don't like having things that I can't quite understand or at least get a general sense of it. And I'll be honest with you folks, I spent, probably better part of 4 hours in between diaper duty and daddy duty, of course, digging into this, and I still can't wrap my head fully around it. Michael, you said, "I sent you an updated flowchart on the 11 dead in Discord, maybe put it up here." Hey, yeah, that is a great idea, Michael. Let me take a look at that here. Yes, that is a great updated flow chart. Let me get that downloaded and put up on the page for us all to see. And then we could kind of jump into my findings on it and get your guys' opinions. Because that's what I really kind of want to get to. I Okay, testing, testing, testing. I hope all of you guys can hear me out there. I did lose my connection to my Facebook. I can't pull that back into the chat, but I don't know what happened. My all my tabs just crashed. I am back up though. I hope you guys can all hear me. All right, so I was in the process of putting up this new graph by Michael of the latest scientist missing or dead. And we can start talking about that here together. But I do believe what I was saying before I was so rudely cut off by the cruddy internet. I believe this could be a series, folks. I believe this is going to be something that could be multiple episodes, just kind of going over all the MOs, all the odd connections, all the anomalies. I'm going to try to get to it as much as I can tonight. But I still want to also take your guys' calls and take your guys' questions. So I don't want to just make it this missing scientist episode tonight. But like I said, there's just so much depth to it, guys. I really want to share it with you guys because it is it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome how well, I wouldn't say awesome the situation, but it's not what the media's hyping up. I think it's a big fear project, but I do believe there's some depths and some layers to it where you guys should keep an eye out and let's kind of check out this together. So this is the updated missing list as of today. You can see kind of a flow chart. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Da, 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 da. Yeah, hang on just a second. I'm going to try and make that a little bit bigger and pull it up in a photo format. Sorry, this flow chart just came to me by the awesome supporter of this channel, Michael. So I did not really have a chance to get it like pre-show. So let's kind of get it saved and pulled up on my computer's end. Hopefully, it's not gonna crash my computer. Here we go. Sorry for the delay, folks. Okay, this looks, yeah, that looks a little bit better. All right, so this is the updated flow chart. Compliments of Michael here. As of 4:17, tonight's recording. And what I want to focus on with this first is we kind of gave a list of all the names. Now, I want to name a couple that are really kind of important in this matter. Several of them I feel are just kind of added into this list, if I'm being frank, to make it a bigger list, make it more scary sounding. All these scientists are dropping dead overnight type thing. You know, the media selling fear clicks, then, content creators doing the same. So I want to just kind of cut through all of that BS and try to the best of my ability to just keep it as simple in that regards as possible. Like, so the names that I think are irrelevant, or the names that I kind of really think are important here. We'll start with that Carl Grillmeyer, and then the missing five. So the missing five here, let me pull up my notes on this as well while we're talking about it. Hold tight, folks. Sorry for the delay. I am just kind of doing this all after my tabs crashed. I had all my notes up on separate tabs, but then my computer crashed for us. So now I'm kind of having to re-pull these up. Okay. Okay, so there are five that are missing, and they all disappeared with the exception of General McCaslin at around the same time. All five of these people had the same exact MOs um, in their disappearance, the same exact set of odd circumstances. This would be Monica Reza, Anthony Chavez, Melissa Cassius, Stephen Garcia, and of course, last, General McCaslin. So the timeline for these people, the first four all disappeared in 2025, all within a few months of each other. Starting with Monica Reza, she disappeared in June 2025. Anthony Chavez disappeared in May of that year. Melissa disappeared in June. Stephen disappeared in August. So that's, kind of an odd pattern that I noticed right away there, but not, quite enough to raise too many red flags. And then McCaslin disappeared last, of course, in February of 2026. And really, that's what set this all up. McCaslin and the death of Carl Grillmeyer really kind of kicked the whole media frenzy of this event off. Prior to this, most of these scientists and high level people, they died like several years ago. Like the latest one that was added onto the list, uh, Amy Eskridge, she died in 2022. Uh, by an apparent, I believe, suicide. I haven't dug too much into her yet. Jason Thomas, he is a pharmaceutical researcher, and as far as I can know, I haven't dug too much into each individual one's background and connections, but I couldn't really find any relevance or connections. Let me know if I'm wrong here, chat, in regards to Jason Thomas. Uh, He's just a pharmaceutical rep. He has no, like, a lot of these, if you look at the list, they have nuclear fusion, connections to JPL, connections to NASA, Los Alamos, the Air Force, of course. But Jason Thomas, Amy Eskridge, at least for right now, uh, And those 2, they really don't have, like, too much connections in this, but again, it's just like a list that people all started hyping up despite all these people disappearing last year in 2025, those first 4 I mentioned, and the odd death, involving, Munoz. I don't know if you remember that. Nuno was that one where that person shot up the school that, Nuno was a professor at, and then he came over and, shot up Nuno, or was it vice versa? Executed him in his apartments or his, condo's foyer there. So, that was kind of forgotten about. It was a very odd set of circumstances. They say that it was kinda like a jealousy rage type thing with the shooter. The shooter was apprehended, but there's not as much connection with Nuno, as you can see with this flow chart, with as there is with the rest of the list. Uh, but it's odd, like, what I noticed about this thing once I started looking at all the dates and stuff is how you have to look for things that just they don't have an organic feel to them. And that's right off the bat what I was, getting off of this, just how all of a sudden, all of these, people just started talking about these missing scientists overnight, even though they've all happened in a kind of long period of time. And I mean, they added Amy Eskridge in there who died in 2022. But the really weirdness one and the one that I really kind of wanna dig into is the circumstances surrounding Carl Grillmayer's death. He was a scientist working on infrared telescopes. Uh, he's he died in his remote residence, and by remote, I mean the closest neighbors were several miles away, and the person that did it was one of his neighbors. So there's a lot of oddity to that, and I'll start building that picture a little bit more clearer for you guys as we move along. Well, let me take a few of your questions. Let me take a look at the chat. I do not want to ignore you guys there while I kind of go into this deep dive because this is an open lines Friday. And I have not had an opportunity to have one of these guys or one of these episodes with you guys in several weeks. So with everything going on in this crazy world of ours and having to reschedule, not having a computer for a couple days, etc. I'm just really happy to be back here and being able to actually do kind of a open riff episode with you guys. And Shed, you said I've been following since Nuno died. He was connected to the plasma, which I think is the key to a lot of this UAP stuff. Yeah. Um, I agree, I agree. He a lot of people wanna say he's not part of this group, and he was just added in as well, but I think there's a lot with his whole details, and we'll go over his, pedigree as well and his, professional career tonight is also. Dan got the call from Graham to stand down. Guy had just backed out of a debate. Oh, my chat. Guy just backed out of a debate with Archaics. All the correspondence has been posted online. Gay's members are very disturbing. Oh, I haven't heard that. That's very, very interesting. I have not heard of that yet. One more. So they backed out of the debate officially. That's very, very odd. That's very, very interesting. Good to hear. Good to hear, though. Thanks for posting that. So yeah, we can't discount a whole. There will be something even at guy once can resonate with same with Billy and David. None are absolute, but some can be true. So it's all perceptions. Yes, absolutely. Good point, Kristen. So much of individuals, what we do digging in this and generally is about perceptions, not with just that, but what we're talking. It's one person's perspective, one person's point of view, one person's research, and sometimes people, narratives hack the the good actors are ones that are actually trying to make a, difference, and, bad actors come in and, hijack those, narratives and those perspectives, and, the crazy things can happen. That's kinda what I think has happened with these scientists. So sorry, I'm just kinda trying to pull up my notes as I'm, digging with this. My computer crashing kind of screwed a few things up on the back end, folks, sorry. So, what I found weird about those 5 missing people, number 1, them all disappearing in around the same geographic region in the same time frame, minus General McCaskill. Number 2, their disappearances were all pretty darn near identical, including General McCaskill. And to me, I don't know if it's like a message being sent with them, but every one of those 4 scientists, they all disappeared, leaving their electronic devices behind. They left any way of tracking them behind, and they all left their house on foot, armed. Each one of them, all 5 of them, including the general, was armed with a handgun. That is odd. That is very, very odd. That tells me they had foresight, something was coming. The general's wife, what really just kinda makes it all seem too, like, staged or elaborate is right after, General McCaskill went missing, his wife ran to Facebook and said that her husband has no intentions of being found. So, why she would say that, such early on in the investigation, she had some prior knowledge of what's going on, and it seems like it was a big elaborate setup. So, these 4 scientists, let's kind of dig into them. It's almost like they disappeared to form a perfect team for, like, UAP research. Like, these 4 people, they all were connected and working in similar fields, in similar, very tight, super classified circles with each other. Uh, so they all knew each other essentially. They've all, worked in some way, shape, or form together, these 5 scientists, um, and the general. They all had kind of the same connections, the same, tight, very small, like I said, classified circle. So each of these people's expertise were in the practical aspects. So they weren't like researchers so much. There's one that was a nuclear systems material expert from Los Alamos. The other was a nuclear component manufacturing expert. Another was a high level security slash admin person, and the other was a specialist in exotic high temperature alloys, the exact kind needed for extreme propulsions, experimental propulsion devices. And the major general was in charge of running advanced aerospace programs and UAP research committees. But the odd part is, so it sounds like almost like a perfectly created group from this small, tight-knit circle of scientists to build something. These weren't research fellows. They were straight, engineers, in, advanced experimental space UAP, tech, advanced, like, rocket materials and stuff like that. So the team, what I could gather, kind of looking over all of their, specialties here, they would be perfect for only a few things, but very perfect for those few things. They could be used to reverse engineer or build an exotic propulsion system, something that needs extreme heat resistance and nuclear power sources. Another option is They could be building a next generation nuclear propulsion system, nuclear thermal or nuclear electric propulsion for deep space, or something connected to UAP tech, specifically the kind of craft that would explain the sudden increase in strange sky activities. So the timeline, and I'm just focusing on these five so far here. The timeline since they disappeared between summer 2025 and 2026 February, these five vanish. Within late 2025 and 2026, huge spikes in green meteors, fireballs, comets, or sorry, not comets, meteors, asteroids spotted streaking across the continental US. Like, I'm talking about very much right after the first 4 started vanishing is when, in late 2025, a lot of these increased sightings of these streaking green and red fireballs in America took off. If you remember the episode we did a couple back, we talked a lot about those increases in meteors and stuff, right? So, odd coincidence that right after this big group of, people disappeared, that all of these spikes started occurring. And in that time frame as well, there has been a massive increase. I don't know if you've seen them on social media, but I used to never see, people posting videos of orbs or odd sky phenomenon on my, like, TikTok feeds or other social media feeds, but now it's like, every 3, 4, 5 videos, there's just orbs by the dozens in these people's videos, and they're posting them like nothing before. So, I've seen a lot more orbs in the skies in my area. Once you know what to look for, you see them everywhere. Definitely seems like a lot of odd things are happening in our skies right when these people disappear. There's been, like, just strange sky phenomenon the world over. Just start, doing searches for them on, like, TikToks and stuff like that, and YouTube. You'll just find vast amounts of them, and it's getting stranger by the day, it seems like. So those people who have all types of connections to the UAP communities, etc., all go missing. Now, what's really odd about these 5, it's a perfect team, like I said, but the one thing that stood out to me is that the level that they disappeared with, it was almost opposite of what it would be if you were to assemble a team like this. You would think if you were to build a top secret, like, black site team, you would think the first person that would have gone missing would be the general major, the William Neil McCaskill. You would think he'd be the facilitator, the one that would set them all up. And then you would start pulling the specialists, Monica, Anthony, Melissa, and Steven, but it happened in reverse. All these specialists disappeared around a year before General McCaskill disappeared. And then he suddenly just disappeared about a year later after those first 4 people. The other odd thing about General McCaskill is he's not the type of person, if you were to pull 5 people to do, he has the connections, he has the experience, but the major general has been retired for well over 10 years. And that's another thing, what's so odd about the coordination in the media, you see that same picture of the general, the one in that, all the badges, all the, military uniform, looking, like a very, strong, powerful leader, right? However, he's a lot different than that stock photo that keeps being circulated of him. Let me show you. This is just kind of an updated photo of Mr. General McCaslin. Just wait for that pull up here. Bear with me, sorry, folks. Much different than the picture that we see of him. Hang on. Is that actually showing for you guys? My computer's being a little sluggish. Um, there we go. Yep. Okay. Now it's showing for me. Okay. So he looks like somebody's grandpa. He looks like somebody's, an old, nice, retired man. And again, if you're pulling these four very high level experts in their fields to work on some kind of project together, you would not pull somebody who's, 10 plus years retired. His security clearances were retired as well. He had very low level access to any, classified information, if any, in his private life afterwards, but all of his high level security clearances, all of his connections to this very small knit community that he was once part of has since evaporated in his 10 plus years of retirement. And as you look, he looks completely different. Let me just pull up the photo of him that everyone circulates around in the media, and just how like that's it's just they're painting a very, very particular picture with this, and that's what I can't quite get wrap my head around, because they want you to think like these 5 are experts and stuff like that, and they are for the most part, but the general is the one that just stands out the most. The fact that he went missing about a year after all the other ones, it would almost have written off. He's worked directly with one of these missing 4, and the rest of them, he's, assumed knowledge in that close, tight community, but as asides from that, like, his knowledge and expertise in this type of field would be very old and outdated compared to what it is currently in the field. So to pull him is just a very odd circumstance. And then I thought, so what does the general fit into all of this? Like one or two things I could kind of gather from it. Could he have seen what's going on with these 4 people and went off and rogue himself to try and rescue these 4? Or did he perhaps, while still remaining in the public as a coordinator, as an administrator, slowly set this project up, working diligently to cover his tracks over the year, either with their assistance or perhaps, working with another entity, securing these 4 individuals with a very specific set of skills that work so perfectly well together. And then he himself disappears once he gets the team set up and in place and ready to go. I don't like the whole old man general goes Rambo to rescue his old team members angle. That's, you don't really think, some 60-some-year-old guy armed only with a handgun is gonna go sneak onto some black site and rescue these 4 people. I don't think that's what's going on, but perhaps that second angle. And again, this is just some of my kind of raw conclusions that I personally have drawn up from this very ongoing situation. So I would love to hear from you guys as well. What do you think this general fits into this, with these 5? Because as far as I know, the other ones, they really, don't have too much connections to this group. And of course, you have 2 that, were executed, and the other ones died under potentially natural circumstances. I mean, one was, like, in their 60s, another one was in their 70s. Um, None of their potential cause of death has been released with those. I'm not talking about the 5 here, I'm talking about the other 5 the ones that were dead. One was found washed up in a lake several months or weeks after their disappearance, but again, no cause of death has been revealed with that one. And the other two were very publicly executed. You had the one right during that school mass shooting event. The same mass shooter came and executed Nuno. And then the other one, a gentleman with no prior criminal history, no prior convictions, killed this top person in telescopes, developing high level telescopes. He had like his whole facility, his house was basically a facility, chose by isolated, several miles away from all of his neighbors, completely dark, off the grid, so he could really get, maximum benefits from his own personal saddle or personal telescope setups that he had at his residence. So what would make them leave without telling their families? MK Ultra? Yes. I mean, perhaps I was wrestling around with that as well as one of the possible options. Let me take a couple more of your guys' questions before I kind of dig more into the next part of this here. Okay, so hey, Nephilim, nice to see you. If you wanted to call into the show tonight, let me know in the Discord, buddy. I can get you a link in there and we can get you on the show. Would love to have you on. I know you said you wanted to call in earlier today. That still would be an awesome thing for you to do. I think our realm is very big because of certain comets fly by every 100 years, like Haley's comet, which we saw years ago. Yes, yes, that's a great point too. We know the nature of space. What they tell us, what NASA tell us. NASA means to deceive in Hebrew. We know that it's BS, but we do know there's something out there, and it has to be very massive. Absolutely. I mean, we have repeating celestial events that happen decades, centuries reoccurring. Definitely seems to be something out there. It's just how we can get to it and what actually space is what's up for debate for me. That's why I said I'm not really a flat earther. I'm not a hollow earther, globe earther, any type thing. I just know that what they told us is nothing but a lie. And it's up to us to kind of dig at the pieces. But when I say that I'm not a flat earther, it's because again, I could see the patterns and, like, the manipulations, the deliberate manipulations of the algorithms. There's anytime there's 2 sides only really being elevated, only really being presented, and discussed, then you should kind of be weary of that, kind of try and dig into things more yourself. Case in point, like politics, the only, sides you hear is the right wing, the left wing, and the left thinks the right's evil, the right thinks the left's evil, and that's the 2 wings of the same bird, though. And I think all of you guys know just how fake and deceptive politics is, and you see kind of the same setup with the globe Earth and the flat Earth debate. It's always just the flat Earth, it's always just the globe Earth, no other sides, no other great points from many other theories ever seem to be presented. It's just either the globe is what it is or it's got to be flat. Nobody else really seems to be elevated too much consistently, I'd say. I've seen many theories over the years of digging into the topic myself, but you never really see too many other people elevated. There's tons of great flat earth people, and I don't say they're like psyops or anything like that, but like Eric Dubai, Flat Earth Dave, there's tons of great people that I've seen over the years presenting flat Earth content, but you never see like a Hollow Earth Dave or Eric Dubai of Hollow Earth or Electric Magnetic Realm Earth. It's always just those 2 options, and you must pick a side. And that's where you see that's the game. And that's kind of almost when you're looking at this, you see like a controlled deliberate, like, set of circumstance. Media is pushing this all, um, because the big thing I wanna make about these 5, whatever they're building, whatever they're doing, and it does seem like this is a team that would be assembled to build something, either an experimental craft with propulsion. Many of them had connections and were working in advanced propulsion and nuclear propulsion, all in the space field. So, hey, thank you, M, so much for that donation. Michael, thanks for pointing that out here as well. I didn't see that. Oh, yes. Thank you very, very much. And thank you very much, Nephilim Hunter, as well. Very much appreciate those donations coming in, folks. But these five people, they have high level classified and access. They have a very s- unique set of skills. If these people were to be pulled by some kind of black book off the record government organization to build God only knows what, ideally we would never hear about it in the public set. I mean, I would assume groups like this would be assembled and gathered up all the time, right? Like there's so many black site groups, so many black budget government funded entities like this, that to think, it would even hit our radars, like our ability to even know that, that's a thing that's happening. It's that's what's very odd. Usually this stuff would just never make the light of day, a black team goes missing, groups together, and yeah, that's just like a common Tuesday in our government, but the fact that the media is all hyping it up and all manufacturing it at the same time. And again, these people were missing for almost a year before anyone said anything about it. Nobody in the truth seeking community, nobody in the um, mainstream media or anything brought any attention to this, made any connections to this until really General McCaslin. He was like the first shoe that dropped, if you would. And not even after that, like, it wasn't until the beginning of April really is when anyone started talking about all of these missing scientists, all of this list, right? Remember what some say happened to the Challenger crew. Yeah, like, exactly right. The Challenger crew just suddenly blew up and with the Challenger, and yet you can find doppelgangers of every single one of them on, the live today. So, yeah, Nephilim Hunter, you would like to call in now? Absolutely, absolutely, we can get you on here. Let's pause this, put a pin in this real quick here. Let me put a invite to our good friend of the program, Nephilim Hunter, who wants to jump in on this subject, and we will get him on the show for you guys. Give me just a moment while I'm getting him brought in. Nephilim Hunter, if you can hear that, you should see a invite in the direct messages now on Discord. Just go ahead and click on that. It'll pop you right into the Riverside Studios app. You don't have to download anything like that. It's just a web-based thing. You just need your microphone. You don't need a camera or anything like that unless you'd like one. And I should see the option once you click on the link to get you into the show here. Has everyone seen the doc, Everything is a Rich Man's Trick? I have not. Is that any good there, Em? And yeah, if you guys were not aware of the super chat goal that I just kind of put up, I'm trying to get more things rolled into the fold here on the program, make it kind of fun and, get moderators going in the chat, get the chat community going more. I'm spread pretty thin myself, but I'm trying to do more and more with this because, I'm all in on this podcast. I'm all in on it with you guys. So I want to keep it moving. I want to keep it developing. Like I told you guys, my first episode, I promise you guys to make every episode, or at least make an effort to make every episode here better than it was last time. Nephilim, did you get that invite? I don't see it. I don't know if I might have to reset my Riverside again here, folks. It's not letting me. Hang on before you click that. I'm gonna have to reset this. Okay, and I'm back online here if you guys can hear me, hopefully. Sorry for that, but my computer was freezing on my tab. Nephilim Hupter, if you get that link, go ahead and jump in whenever you're ready here. I sent it on Riverside, should or on Discord, so you should be able to see it. Oh, yeah, I got you now here. Hang on, hang on. I think that's you. No, maybe not. Sorry, folks. Still working on rolling out the open line callers here. Scott, you said use the globe model's own math to calculate curvature, and then you have to look up or look at the horizon. Oh, yes, I do know that, Scott. Yes, absolutely. The math that they give you, the globe model gives you for the curve per mile square, whatever, 1.66 or something like that. It doesn't add up. 1.666, I should say, does not add up. All right, so here we are on Open Lines Friday. We have our caller, longtime friend of the show, great longtime supporter, Nephilim Hunter. How you doing tonight, sir?
What's up, buddy? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So glad to finally get you here on the show. So you want to talk about the topic on hand? Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yes, yes, it is. What's your theory on those five missing scientists? You think there's a connection? You think they're working on some kind of project, or what do you think? What do you think?
Hang on a
The
second. I got you on. I'm trying to see. I got Echo. I got you. I got you on here twice.
I'm hearing, oh, I'm hearing you good. You're coming in perfectly on my end. I don't hear any echo. So if you're hearing that, it's not picking up here in the studio at least.
All right, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm caught up now.
You caught up now. If you had like a YouTube on as well or something like that, it might have a slight delay on YouTube from my like Riverside streaming program. So yeah, if you're worried about the echo, don't worry. We
I'm just
are
hearing it all repeat. I just killed it on the YouTube for now.
there you go, there you go, there you go. So yeah, let's hear your theory on that, Nephilim. What do you think's
Yeah.
going on?
So one thing I saw was you ever heard of the rods from God?
Yes, yes.
So the lady, one of the ladies, was into making whatever they put on the ends of that or whatever they make them with, the metal that they make it with.
I believe it's like some kind of like form of Tuscan or Tuscany or yeah, like that. Very like very powerfully resistant alloy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what one of those five were. Yeah, like she was connected with like unique materials and stuff like that. She was like heat polymers and stuff like that for the shuttles or the current NASA like rockets and stuff. Yeah, she was
Yeah. So
developing
you
all
had the
that.
Artemis just go up, which they said was used on that. And then you also have the war starting, and they took
Hmm.
out how many liters in the first, what, couple hours, all with the bunker busters that penetrate how far down into the ground. Like, and there was no, like, they just took out those spots. It's supposed to be like some kind of kinetic energy bomb or something like that.
Yes. So yeah, what you're what you're saying out with those bunker bumpsters and the hand of God or it's like Thor's hammer or something I've heard it called
Yeah.
many names. So essentially, folks, there's a like high orbiting altitude or satellite balloon, whatever you want to call it, in space, and they drop these rods from the low Earth orbit onto the target, and as it's picking up velocity, it just kinetically devastates the target once it hits. It's a superheated Tuscan element, like a big rod that literally just drops from space right on its target. So you're thinking those were used like in Iran?
Yeah. I mean, they took out, it was a lot of targets within the first 4 hours or so, hit every one.
Hmm.
Like that's usually that's usually not how it goes, you know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. And if you look at like for those that remember Operation Iraqi Freedom and the War on Terror and all that stuff
Hmm.
that went on for what 20 years, No, it's not just a simple, the US military is the most advanced, military in the world, past or present, and they have great capabilities, but no, even then, it took them 20 years to, bomb all these caves and all these hideouts and all these,
Yep.
places high in the Afghan mountains, so and of course, what else they said they were doing there. But you
Yeah.
brought up a great point with the current event, going on, the war in Iran. There's 2 subjects that have been constantly knocking around in all communities, whether it's the mainstream and the truth community, UAP community, nuclear warfare,
Yeah.
potential use of nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs, and the oncoming potential disclosure of extraterrestrials, UAPs, UFOs.
Yep.
And again, you have those 2 topics. Just like I said, the right wing, left wing, flat, earth, round earth side. You have those 2 topics that are being, like, amplified and pushed. It's almost like these 5 people, in my opinion, they started the op they s when all of them disappeared with, McCaskill being the last one, like, that ended that first stage of the operation or the events. A
Yeah.
lot
It
of
seems
the
like they're trying to ramp up the story. Like they
Yes.
gave you disclosure. Nobody cared because there's so
Mhm.
many things going on. So it's like, what else can we do to drum this up?
Yeah, oh, no, you are absolutely correct there, and that's why I said, like, I feel like, we got that Project Bluebeam, it's always been
Hmm.
looming on, so many of the truth seekers, community's minds.
That's the vibe it gives you.
Yeah, so you have everybody saying, "Oh, we're, moments away from Iran, getting nukes and nuking America," even though they've been saying that for 40
Yeah.
some
And then you had
years.
the Bledsoe thing too, the
Yes.
prediction and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and, they say the UFOs and stuff, like, they stop the nuclear weapons from going off. I personally think it's odd that we have 2 really highly amplified things that a majority of people in the truth-seeking community would say that those 2 subjects, UFOs are fake and gay, and
Yep.
nukes are fake and gay.
Yep.
So what are they trying to pull over our eyes? What are they really trying to do?
I mean, it has to be blue beam, right? Like that's the only thing that it could, that all that could lead to.
Very well possible, and again, those,
But then,
individuals
do you
that
think blue beam's actually real? Like,
exactly, exactly, and then, you have to use your our own discernment, folks, and
yep.
that's,
And a lot of people don't have that anymore.
no, they get hooked on an idea, they get hooked
Hmm.
on, and that's what I see in a lot of people in the truth-seeking community, not to knock flat earth, but when a lot of people kind of go through their waking up and realizing what they've been taught is a bunch of lies, then they, jump on kind of the first, thing that feels good for them.
Yep.
And they never use any discernment or any observation or, digging into their own, questions. They just let others tell them what it is again.
Yeah.
And, you know, it could very well be flat, but none of us right now listening here have been able to, jump on a rocket, jump on a plane or
Nope.
something and visibly prove it ourselves.
Everyone thinks they know, but they don't.
Exactly,
You cannot
exactly.
prove it. You can't prove it.
I love to be proven wrong, especially on all this stuff,
Yeah.
like I've told you guys multiple times, in this program, I was a big space nerd. Couple tattoos, the only tattoos I have, one is a Star Trek tattoo and one is a Star Wars tattoo. So I always dreamed about flying in spaceships, seeing and, experiencing the stars, so it's hard for me to wrap my head around and, realize that, that version is probably not very accurate, and at least we've never had actually went. Like, if that Artemis 2 mission made anyone think that, "Oh, okay, maybe it's real," then you guys have a few, brain cells loose. I mean, there were so many
They
glitches and
had
anomalies
pictures.
in that.
I saw photos they had that was from the, what was it? The first Artemis mission that they were trying to
Yes.
put up and say that they were from this mission. It's like that's the same exact photo.
Yes, and so many cartoon graphics too, so many cartoon we're in 2026, we have
Hmm.
the government that can track a fly on your back end from a million miles away if they wanted to with the satellites and all these surveillance
The
techs,
flock cameras.
flock cameras. We
You
have
looked into those?
oh, yes. So, yeah, those
That's
are out
crazy.
every one of these communities. Another thing that all of these communities have that they don't really talk much about are the surveillance drones, all these police
Yep.
stations, and I can see it even in my own community, when I talking about orbs and stuff. As a night sky observer, when I first see an object moving by, I check my fake space app that tells you if there's actual satellites. You can
Mhm.
see those satellites coming through and you can see the difference. And then I'll pull up my flight tracking app and see if it's an actual plane. And if it's not any of those two and it's not acting like the regular orbs that I see that kind of disappear and do its thing, but you can see it like flashing red lights and
Yeah.
those are surveillance drones and they are all over our skies and nobody
Yeah.
knows that.
Those flock cameras a lot of people don't know about either.
No, no, the way we are connected and surveilled, that's why I always laugh when people, freak out about their privacy. "Oh, Facebook's, gonna share my photos," and,
Yeah.
"Oh, peop Zuckerberg's listening." It's like, look, they can track and listen to you in any way, shape, or form, even if you don't
Yeah.
have
You
a
can't take
cell
your SIM
phone.
card out of your phone anymore.
Exactly, these flock cameras, that's definitely a rabbit hole we should talk about, talking about, like, the current events of things here coming up, but those flock cameras, they can track you, like and they can pull your whole, like, movement history with you never having a cell
Yeah.
phone or any smart device on
You
you.
can do it. You can get on there and track people, like, if you
Yes,
wanted to. It's
yes,
crazy. You download it, and you can sit there and watch the cameras just the same as the police can. That's how they get around it. They make it for public
yes,
use. It's a private corporation. It's not the government, but the government uses it.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Nephilim Hunter, been a great, great honor having you here as our second phone call in. I am going to jump on do this. I want to get to the points before I lose my train of thought with these scientists because
All
I
good, buddy.
I got a big turn on them that I think you guys will like. So thanks for calling in, sir. Hope to get you on the next episode too to call in as well. Call in anytime. Love to have
All
you.
right, buddy.
Thank you.
Later.
All right, folks. So again, as you see, that's exactly how easy it is. All you need to do is just get a invite link. You can pop right on the show anytime. I always welcome guests coming on any of our 3 episodes throughout the week. Open Lines Friday is really the best opportunity for you guys to jump on, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So we talked about the first 5 of those scientists, right? Let's pop back up this visual graph here for you. We talked about these first 5, the ones that all disappeared with the exact same set of circumstances, all disappeared around the same time, minus the major general, and all had a very unique and rare, perfect set of skills that would make them a perfect black site team. Now, I can't draw for sure. Like, I can't say exactly what I think this is. I can give you the few thoughts that I have. Like I said, they're either building something, they want us to know that this team went missing. I think that's a big possibility, whatever that fully entails. Because, like I said, these type of people, how much like they were up there in the classified like community. If they wanted to get pulled off to a black site, like we would have never known about it in normal circumstances. I guarantee you that type of stuff happens on the regular in our governments. But the fact that we have been known about it and the fact that the media, the mainstream media specifically here, keeps pumping and amplifying this whole missing scientist list thing. You have Fox News talking about it, CNN talking about it. And anytime Fox News starts going talking about like the same things the conspiracy crowd is talking about, I think we need to, as a community, kind of like pump the brakes a little bit and be like, wait a minute, what are they trying to push us? Because they're trying to steer us, folks. They're trying to steer us to a predetermined set of conclusions. Like I said, fake nukes, the fake Iran thing going on, all of that stuff. Are they going to fake a nuclear Armageddon attack? They're going to fake some kind of big, giant false flag event like that. That's what I think of when I think of like 9/11 and stuff like that. 9/11 being one of the biggest false flag in history, one of them. You can argue other events as well, but at least in recent times and most of our memories, we were all still alive. We all knew what we were doing on that day on September 11th, right? That's the type of impact those false flags want to have on us. They'll leave a scar in our brains. Like the 2020 event. We know so much details about what we're doing. It's almost like a trauma bond, a PTSD that we share from it. But what's really just kind of like what kept me up at night last night about these scientists is we had very little buildup, very little like pre-knowledge. Nobody in the conspiracy community really had like any like advanced knowledge to 9/11 or anything like Alex Jones successfully predicted it like right before it supposedly, and Alex Jones was probably one of those government plants anyways, but it's neither here nor there. There wasn't like a big trail of breadcrumbs leading up to it. It's like all of this is so perfect, so like orchestrated that these breadcrumbs were intentionally made for us to be found and drawn to these predetermined conclusions. Let me take a few more of your questions here. I see a lot of them in chat kicking off. Like I said, guys, I didn't intend to this necessarily take over Open Lines Friday, but I just dug so much into this and excited to share and get your guys' opinions on it. So it's going to be kind of maybe a little series, but keep the questions coming in, even if it's not related to this topic of these scientists tonight. We'll get it on. We'll get it on. Warner von Braun warned you. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Warner von Braun did indeed warn us. They said the was it the Psalms? I can't remember the exact quote. I posted a photo of that actually not too long ago on my page. Let's see if I can pull that exact quote up so I'm not paraphrasing off the top of my head. Yeah, Warner von Braun posted on or his tombstone reads Psalms 19:1, which talks all about, if you guys don't know that, let me just pull up the quote again so I don't paraphrase it. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheath his handiwork. Very, very odd for the rocket guy of NASA, the one that the Nazi that came over in Operation Paperclip. He wasn't the head of NASA, but he was the one that developed the Saturn V rockets, the ones that got us to the supposed moon, to have a quote about the firmament on his headstone. Well, that is, yes, Psalms 19:1 it is, if you guys did not get that. And again, the quote is, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament above." There's many different translations about that. The more recent versions of the Bible, they kind of try and make it not sound as flat earthish as it very much seems like it is. Again, I'm not a flat earther, but you see the head guy of the Apollo program, the guy that supposedly made these Saturn V rockets to get us to the moon, was, of course, a Mason and, of course, Nazi, but and all that stuff that we would have in charge of our space programs. Very, very odd. If you guys want to dig into Operation Paperclip someday, that's definitely something we can do. Um, but the fact that he would have a quote about the firmament on his headstone, like, boy, that's just very, very odd. That's a hard thing to ignore. So back to the scientist, though. I want to focus a little bit about Carl Grillmeyer now. because the set of circumstances surrounding his death and the inconsistencies just really make no frickin' sense. Yes, Scott, you are correct. Alex Jones is definitely one of the biggest gatekeepers there is. A lot of people thinks he's like directly working with the CIA. He was another actor that played another role prior, as a lot of these people seem to do, prior to the Alex Jones becoming a thing. Uh, a gentleman named Bill Hicks, who got unalived, he looks strikingly like Alex Jones. I have a very sore spot for Mr. Bill Hicks or Alex Jones, whoever you want to go by his name, because he tried to very terribly call out one of my random posts one day on TikTok, and he just like shared it and gave a very like NPC response to it. And I just knew how fake and much of a plant and gatekeeper he was I mean, I always knew, but when he kind of went full NPC response to one of my posts, and I don't even remember what it was. It was about the Great Wall in Montana, actually, a very like non like controversial subject, and one with a lot of details behind it. And he just dismissed it as a crazy tinfoil conspiracy theory. So screw Alex Jones if you're listening, which I'm sure he's not. But okay, so this is the compound I was talking about with this Carl Grillmeyer guy. So what happened was his neighbor that lives about 2 miles away from him, because again, Carl picked this spot very, very deliberately. It was so remote, no neighbors around for miles, completely away from any light pollution or anything like that. And he's basically completely isolated. Nobody should come around and bother him. He should be able to see the night skies with these telescopes that he had set up on this very large compound. You can see a couple different telescope spots here in this aerial photo. And his neighbor ended up being the one that unalived him. Now, what's really odd about this is, again, the was neighbor and is a very loose term used in a area like that, where there's like the nearest person, this particular Freddie Myers, or wait, I'm sorry, Freddie Snyder was 2 miles away from him, and he was his neighbor. First incident, he was spotted on Grillmayer's property, and he was armed with an AR-15. Grillmeyer called the authorities then, and quickly Freddie was arrested and charged with the improper possession of a firearm, and he got sentenced to the state lockup. Now, what takes an odd turn in this, and where the Grillmayr would end up meeting his untimely demise, is a judge, a Florida judge, activist judge, or sorry, not Florida, California judge appointed by Governor Newsom, um, overturned the conviction off of this very odd, unique, like, I'm trying to find the exact spot in my notes where I have it. It's like a legal technicality type thing that just kind of went through the California legal system, where judges can arbitrarily decide if they want to, like if there is no purpose or no point pursuing justice in a particular charge, they can drop the case and dismiss it or overturn the conviction. And that is exactly what this California judge did. He overturned Freddie's conviction on the firearm charges. Upon his release from lockup, 2 weeks later, he ended up killing Carl Grillmayr. So that's kind of odd. Prior, of course, Freddie's record, Freddie Snyder had zero. He's a 29-year-old man that was said to live with his mother or potential like family members like that. Again, he was the only neighbor within range of Carl Grillmeyer, and he supposedly developed an obsession with this guy's property, showing up multiple times for some odd reason, armed with an AR-15. Again, a kid that, I say kid, 29 years old, but a guy that had zero criminal convictions, zero charges, zero nothing. And when I say he had zero nothing, I mean he had no prior history. No, and this is a very, very small community, very small town area. Um, there should be some kind of record, yearbook, a record, or somebody knows him in high school, clipping from a old high school sport box score or a yearbook photo or something. It is like there is absolutely zero footprint on this Freddie Snyder guy, either online or in the community there. So that's another very, very odd thing. So somebody that has no footprint, that has no employment record, no job history, nothing, lives with his parents or his mom allegedly. He ends up killing this top researcher into far Earth impacting objects, asteroids, meteors, stuff like that. All these, he's very connected. Let me pull up Grillmayer's exact pedigree here so I don't paraphrase it. Sorry, bear with me. So he was, sorry, folks, I'm kind of just digging through my notes where I have the exact kind of description of Grillmayer's pedigree for you guys. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, while I'm searching for this, here we go. So he's an astrophysicist specializing in infrared sky surveys, exoplanet detection, and NASA's NEOWISE NEO survey missions, looking for near Earth objects. NEOWISE program. So he was in charge of looking for potential near Earth objects, either exoplanets, impacting objects, asteroid meteors, etc. He's very, very high up. He worked closely with NASA, projects that overlapped like JPL. Uh, and his role was again sky monitoring, anomaly detection, sets of eyes looking for objects that don't behave like normal meteors or satellites. So that was his big gig. So let me expand this whole situation with Freddie, just give you the whole timeline leading up to his release and Grillmayer's death. So Grillmayr lived in a remote rural area in Laliano, California, basically a desert country with a lot of open land. Let me pull up again that picture of his compound for you guys so you can see just how like remote and isolated this guy was. He again picked this area, this region specifically because it was so remote and so isolated. His nearest neighbor was Freddie Snyder. That was, Freddie, that was 2.5, 3 miles away. So it's just odd that the one person that goes crazy on him is his neighbor, and the other prior convictions or any signs of mental instability or anything like that. I mean, look at his compound. It's all surrounded by dirt roads, as far as the eye can see. So He had built his own personal observatory out in this remote region there because it was so dark at night, perfect, like I said, zero sky pollution. In December 2025, Grillmeyer called the cops himself because he spotted Freddie Snyder, then 29, trespassing on his large property while carrying an AR-15 style rifle. Snyder was arrested on a felony weapons charge, and again, he had zero prior convictions at that point. A judge overturned his conviction in February 2026 using California's unnecessary prosecutions law, which in this circumstances, with this case, with a felony firearms charge, that 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 unnecessary prosecutions act, that very like kind of unique legal thing, was never used in this type of situation before. So a very, very odd situation indeed. And again, no like type of restrictions or restraining order or anything or barred from his properties were made to Mr. Freddie Snyder. So after the judge dismissed him in his charges in February 2026, Snyder was released with basically zero consequences. 2 weeks later, on February 16th, 2026, Grillmeyer was shot and killed on his front porch. Snyder was arrested the same day after allegedly carjacking a relative nearby. He was charged with Grillmeyer's murder plus the earlier burglary and the carjacking. So, what we know about Freddie Snyder's relationship with Grillmeyer, other than that he was a neighbor, they were not lovers, not friends, and had no prior personal connections that anyone has found. Snyder lived about 2 miles away. It appears that Snyder, according to people, say he developed some kind of fixation or obsession with Grillmeyer's isolated property. Neighbors describe Snyder as unhinged. The burglary charge is tied to the December incident, the one that he was charged with after Grillmeyer's death. But they re-added it on after he was arrested for the murder and carjacking. So he was on Grillmeyer's land without permission while armed, so they rolled that charge after the murder. So my honest read on that, just kind of giving you guys that little bit of information, it doesn't seem like a professional hit. It seems like on the surface, and this is kind of a surface level observation, seems like a mentally unstable local guy who got caught trespassing with a rifle, was let go by the courts, and then came back and killed the homeowner. The fact that the gun charge was dismissed so quickly, though, right before the murder, is the part that feels very suspicious to a lot of people. It is very messy, it's personal, and it doesn't carry that clean signature of a government or hired professional assassination. But what makes it so odd with the unhinged neighbor angle is there's zero footprint. And the feds scrub these shooters' digital footprints instantly, but there is nothing out there, not a news article, not any type of mention of his employments or anything. Aside from the one neighbor, and again, the nearest neighbors are miles away from each other there, that called him unhinged. Which, how much do you really know about your neighbor? Generally, when you live in a big neighborhood like I do, uh, how much do you really know about your neighbor that's miles and miles away? Enough to call them unhinged, but yet there's never been any criminal contact or any interactions with the police or law enforcement involving this Freddie guy prior. That seems like a very odd setup, like framed narrative. Oh, unhinged lone shooter, no criminal records or background. He sounds like very much a Fed plant, a glowy or glowworm, whatever you want to call him. It goes by many names, a fake character. Didn't exist until he came in, did his job, and then that's kind of what they're framing him as. A guy that gets in, gets out, and disappears, and it's never to be seen again. He's they arrested him. He's on trial for this murder and stuff, but he, publicly, it could just get slipped away. He could get let out the same way the judge that let him out the first time for this. The weirdness of this, though, has not even hit the surface. So here is the odd circumstances involving the day of Grillmayer's murder. He was shot at approximately 6:10 a.m., give or take. Immediately when he was shot, a 911 call came in reporting a assault with a deadly weapon. Apparently some neighbors or something heard the gunshots, but the fact that they were called near instantly after the shots, very, very odd because, as you can see just looking at this little dirt path, the neighbors are miles away from him. Who would, in their right mind, and this is just my speculation here, so you hear a gunshot in the middle of the desert, even a 1 or 2, your first initial thought is to call the authorities at 6:10 in the morning and report this as an assault with a deadly weapon. That is I mean, if I've lived in remote areas, I've, know a lot of hunters in the family and stuff, you would just dismiss a few quiet gunshots in the distance as, a hunter. You're really gonna call the authorities on every single gunshot you hear in a remote desert region, like, that's nuts, and how would they even know to respond to Grillmayer's residence at that, being as people were so far away from the scene? There were no eyewitnesses or anything that saw it. So immediately after the first 911 call for the gunshots, the assault with a deadly weapon, there was another 911 call put in right in the same area for a carjacking. So apparently, this Freddie Snyder guy that nobody has any background or any backstory on him other than he's an unhinged neighbor, according to one neighbor miles away, um, and no criminal background or anything like that, kills his neighbor because he was obsessed with the property for some odd reason. That's the only motive they really give us for this guy. And then what do you do after you shoot your neighbor in his remote house? Well, of course, you would happen to run across your aunt in her car driving down the road on these remote dirt roads. And what would you do when you would see your aunt trying to flee a crime scene, a crime scene that she had no, that we know of, any way of witnessing it or knowing at all what happens? You try and, maybe hop in your aunt's car and say, "Hey, could you take me somewhere? There's some crazy person that I heard shooting in the distance. Like, hey, I'm, scared." No, he carjacked his own aunt. So the second 911 call that oddly enough occurred like almost instantly after the second one. So all of these sets of circumstances from Carl Grillmeyer being shot on his front porch to the carjacking all happened within mere minutes, almost simultaneously. What are the odds of that, folks? We know the first 911 caller was the aunt or the female family member, but we don't know who the second 911 caller is. Carl Grillmeyer did indeed live alone in this remote region. So, unless Freddie Snyder called the cops on himself, we have no idea who that second or that first 911 call, the initial 911 call is. Um, so 2 911 calls simultaneously in a remote, isolated region in the California desert. That set of circumstances never happens. It's like you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning 100 times in a row and winning the lottery than having two extreme violent crimes being called simultaneously into the 911 dispatchers in this region. It's never happened, and it's the oddities of it. Yes, a serious angle, or you'd go grab a pair of binoculars at best to check it out from a distance if you heard gunshots in the middle of a desert like that. And really, I mean, some of the remote regions, like my great grandpa, or not my great grandpa, my grandpa, um, lived in the New Mexico desert. He was a miner there and, hunter and stuff like that. And you would hear all kinds of stuff like that in the desert all the time in those remote regions. You're not calling the cops on every single random gunshot you hear. And again, the set of circumstances from unless his aunt was in on it somehow and or she was friends with the, Carl Grillmeyer, which there's no evidence of that. We don't even know for sure if it's his aunt or his mom, or it's just some female member of the family. So some female member of the family just so happened to be driving down these dirt roads the same time that this Freddie Snyder just got in his head to go to the person's house that he just got released off of these felony charges from to shoot him. Why? I don't know. Like he got it got his records completely cleared. Like, it's not like he has this charge on his record now. Like, no, the judge originally dismissed this charge. Like, and there was no knowledge that these two knew each other of any extent other than they were neighbors. And by neighbors, I mean like a 2 mile away neighbor. So why would you, like, 2 weeks after getting let go scot free, go back and just decide to just shoot this guy out of nowhere? And then at the same time, your aunt just so happens to be driving by this guy's residence and you decide to just carjack her? That's the whole set of circumstances doesn't make sense. And this is where I really would like your guys' help on is, so if this was a Fed plant or a Fed glowy, or, a hit job or whatever, it was very sloppily done. Why would he allow himself to get caught in the first place, right? And why would there be, like, where is that second 911 call coming, or that first 911 call coming from for the assault with a deadly weapon? Um, it sounds like they almost, like, set this guy up, as the fall guy. Um, Either that, they wanted to make it look like, "Oh, case closed," there's tons of, look at, the Tyler Robinson guy with the Charlie Kirk case, very much an obvious Fed plant, right? So, all of this makes no sense to me. I've spent an hour and a half kind of just scraping the surface of all the anomalies behind these 10 scientists. And really, it boils down to those five that are disappeared with no trace to, they are still assumed alive but missing to this day. Um, Grillmeyer and the Nuno, that was also the one that was assassinated by a supposed former student after that former student just committed a mass shooting, or vice versa, at the nearby university that Nuno taught at. So, what I want you guys to do this weekend here, and we can chat in the Discord as well. We can chat in, private messages if you guys have thoughts on this. I want to know your opinions. I'm stuck at this whole Grillmayr murder scene. Nothing adds up. Two 911 calls happening exactly at the same time, mere moments, if not simultaneously, from one another, that happen to lead to this Freddie Snyder's apprehension instantly. And again, like, a crime like that in the desert usually goes unnoticed. Usually goes unnoticed, at least for a very, very long time. You can hear an AR rifle from long distances, especially in like a desert with like plenty of like places for the sound to bounce off of. Uh, Kind of asked Chat GPT on that, just how far away can you hear an AR-15 round being shot off in there? And it's about 4 miles is the max range. So that does put some neighbors that live nearby, at least ideally close enough to be able to have heard those shots. But the fact that they would call in those shots right away, wouldn't go and investigate. I mean, usually you go and investigate, like you said, bust out some binoculars, observe from afar, and most of the time you just assume it's a hunter. There's plenty of hunters out in that area. There'd be no reason viably why some neighbor would decide to just call it in as an assault with a deadly weapon. Not that, you know, the cops weren't responding to reported gunshots. They were they were responding to a assault with a deadly weapon call. Very different for law enforcement, very, different, set of circumstances, scenarios. So, is so basically, what does it all adding up to? There's a lot more we're going to get into. Like I said, we're gonna have a couple episodes in a row on these scientists, digging them deep down, and, there's a lot more connections. There's a lot more pieces to this puzzle here that I can't get through in just 1 or 2 or probably even 3 episodes. And I don't see a lot of people, asking these questions. I dug into this all personally myself for the most part. And then I went onto the internet and kind of looked on other creators, what their thoughts and opinions. And nobody's really quite asking and making these connections like that. So they're just accepting the narrative, accepting whatever they're told, which is mostly the case here, but there's so much more than we're being told going on with these scientists. I don't know if it's a pathway for like a soft disclosure, like they want us to be aware of this. They want us to see these top UAP officials, these top nuclear propulsion experts. They want us to see the connection between potential aliens, etc., potential nuclear weapons. So, could it be a false flag? Could it a potential nuclear attack oncoming? Could it be a build to potential soft disclosure? I can't answer that, folks. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, though. I'll be reading through all the comments and chats here throughout the weekend. We'll talk more in Discord about this individually. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. We'll have much, much more of this topic coming up in the next couple episodes. For the other episodes that I have planned, couple topics. One of my biggest supporters of this page or of this podcast um, had a special request to cover the Bermuda Triangle. And this special listener of the program is none other than my young 7-year-old son, Braden. He came up to me today. He's like, Dad, have you ever done an episode on the Bermuda Triangle? And he doesn't really listen to my podcast. A lot of topics that kind of I don't want to muddle up his regular academic studies. I want him to come to his own conclusions naturally, just like we did, right? I don't want to force him into his own opinions or force him to realize that his schooling is a big lie. But I feel he's a very, very smart kid. He'll get to that point on his own. But he always loves hearing, his old man, what topics I'm covering and stuff, and he likes to think of me as a big podcaster, even though I'm not like you think. I'm not a Mr. Beast or anything like that, or, Speed or anything like that. I just do my own little neck of the woods, my own little corner, but he was very fascinated to hear about the Bermuda Triangle. So I told him, "You know what? That would be a great topic for us to cover," and I'm sure all my listeners Would be very interested to hear about that as well. Yes, and a serious inquiry. Alaska Triangle is interesting too. Sorry though for tonight's Open Line Fridays. It wasn't too much open, except we did had a great conversation with Nephilim Hunter, great friend of the program. Thanks for making the call in. I didn't get to as much of your questions as I wanted to, but don't worry. I do read the chat here. I will pull some of these questions you guys had. We'll get those answered on Tuesday's episode. But yeah, this scientist thing, it's important. We need to spend some time on this, folks. Kind of derails my regularly scheduled program. We're going to make our first little series here. The mystery of the 10, now 11 missing and or dead scientists. We'll see where we poke and prod at together and what falls out. Hope you guys have a great weekend though, guys. Thank you so very much for tuning in live. And I hope you have a safe weekend if you're in part of these severe storms like my region is. But if it's a nice weekend out, I hope you guys get a chance to go outside and pop out of those rabbit holes and enjoy the beautiful world for what it is. Until next time, friends, question everything. We'll see you Tuesday live, as always, 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, questioning everything. Have a great night.